Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to social science class. Last class, we learnt about the official documents and the maintenance of the significance of official documents, especially this culture when it was started. Especially, we came to know that the British officials, during their rule, in their administrations, they believed that the act of writing it was much important, and whatever they communicated with the higher or the lower authority, they used to communicate with the written up form, and whatever, even it's so important also. And also, whatever they were produced, the convictions in the administrative culture of memo, notings, and even the reports and so on, things. So they understood that needs to be keep in a proper way. So the maintenance of this, especially for that, they were maintained in a well thorough. And also during 19th century, these the copies, the documents and copies were copied and even beautifully written up by the calligraphists. Beautifully written by the calligraphists. See, during this time, the spread of printing culture, the spread of printing press and this culture, the multiple copies of these records were printed as proceedings of each government department also. So in this way, the British administration, in their rule, in our country, they were introduced, the maintenance of the official records and documents, and even the preserving and that importance of preserving the documents, so on, things, they were introduced in our country. And even this culture is completely contributed by the British administrators. Now let us discuss about the importance of survey. See, during British administration, the survey also become more important. Surveys become more important. See, during this time, the practice of surveying also became common under the British administration or colonial administration. The practice of survey. See, the British people, the British administrators and the rulers, they were believed that a country had to be properly known before it could be effectively administered. They must know that. The British people, the British rulers and the British administrators, they were believed about this, that a country had to be properly known before it could be effectively administered. If you are going to implement or if you are going to administer that particular region or a country or a state means, first we must know about that country very clearly. We first know that. When we knows about that properly, then only it could be effectively administered, otherwise it may become failure. About this, the British, they were believed. By the early 19th century, detailed surveys were being carried out to map the entire country. During early 19th century, detailed surveys were being carried out to map the entire country by the colonial administration. See, in the villages revenue surveys were conducted. What they were? In rural areas, in villages. So they were conducted revenue surveys. See, the effort was to know the topography. Why they were conducted revenue survey? So, to effort was to know the topography, the soil quality, the flora, the fauna, and the local history, and the cropping pattern. All these things. See, when they were conducting a revenue survey, so they are going to observe, they are going to study all these things about in the revenue survey. So these revenue surveys were conducted in villages. The effort was, why they were conducted, no, to know the topography, and quality of the soil, so before going to collect the revenue or before going to conduct the revenue, so they must know that the quality of the soil also, and even the flora, the fauna, and local history also, and also cropping pattern. So, by conducting survey, the colonial administrators want to know all these factors to fix the revenue. So that's what in a rural area, the colonial administrators, so they were conducted a revenue survey to effort to know about all these factors, about topography, about quality of the soil, the flora, the fauna, and even the local history, and even the cropping pattern also. See, all the facts are seen as necessary to know about to administer the region. If we know all these things, then we can successfully administer that particular region, and even we can so measure, and even we can calculate how to fix the revenue, how to fix the, in the sense, so the amount of the revenue while deciding. So if they are going to consider all these different facts, then that became easy to administer. See, from the end of the 19th century, the census operations were held every 10 years. Now also we know that, so the government of India used to conduct, so every 10 year once census. Okay, so actually it was started in the end of the 19th century only in British India under the colonial administration. So they were held every 10 years once, the census. So these prepared detailed records of the number of people in all the provinces of India, noting information on caste. See, whatever benefits we will get, so through this census. So the first thing that, so we can get the entire detailed information, So especially during the end of the 19th century, so the colonial administrators, so they were started every 10 years once the census. Okay, and so they were noted the number of people in the different. So if suppose we are go through that, so we came to know that the number of people in different provinces. So there are so many provinces. So according to that, so we can came to, I mean, the British administrators, so they were able to understand or to get in each provinces or in a different provinces, so the number of population or the total population, and also noting information on caste and even the religion, so who are settled in that respective area, they may belong to which caste and which religion they are following. And also, dear students, so they are noted the information about their occupations also, their occupation. How many people they were practicing, what kind of occupations. So these are all detailed information, so they were able to know through the surveys. See, there were many other surveys also. So this is one example I told. If suppose if you are going to conduct, so one thing that is about the revenue surveys, so they can go through and they can get all this information, and based on this, so they can administer easily. Based on that, they can administer easily in that respective of the particular regions. And even, so they were started actually the surveys in the early 19th century, and even so they were introduced and they were started at the end of the 19th century, the census also, every 10 years. So according to census, so these census reported to colonial administrators to know about the number of people, those who are living in a different provinces, and also their caste, and also their religion, and also their occupations also. So regarding all these things, they were so got the detailed information through this census. And also, dear students, the British administrators or the colonial administrators, so they were conducted so many other surveys also, such as, so not only this revenue survey or not only this census, so even though they are conducted, so some of the other surveys also, so such as botanical surveys, and also geological surveys, and also archaeological surveys, and also anthropological surveys also, anthropological surveys, and also, so the British administration or the colonial administration conducted forest surveys also. See, dear students, in this way, the colonial administrations, they were conducted and they were introduced so many different kinds of surveys in our country. So, according to the British people, so before administrating about any country, especially about administration of any country, so they must be knows about the condition of that country. Then it could be effectively administered. If you know that, if you know the condition of the country properly, so then only it could be administered effective ways. So already I told that by the early 19th century, the detailed surveys were being carried out to map the entire country, especially in the villages. So they were conducted revenue surveys. So the effort was to know why they were conducted these revenue surveys. So why? Because to know the topography, the soil quality, the flora, the fauna, and the local history also, and even the cropping pattern also. See, if all the facts are seen as necessary to know about to administer that respective region in a successful. And also, dear students, at the end of the 19th century, the colonial administrations, so they were started census throughout the country every 10-year once. So they were started the operation of this census. See here, these prepared detailed records of the complete details when we are conducting the surveys, population surveys, or if we go through the what we call the census, we will get a lot of information. So especially the census, it was helpful and produced a lot of information, so especially to know the number of people in the different provinces, and also noting information on caste also, religion also, and even the occupations also. So like that, there were conducted so many types of surveys. So even though they were started revenue surveys, along with revenue surveys. So even though they were started the census also, this is also kind of survey to know about the population and the different aspects of the, and even the botanical surveys, geological surveys, archaeological surveys, anthropological surveys, and forest surveys. So these are the different surveys were introduced by colonial administrations during the end of the 19th century. So this is all about the surveys. So why? Because already I told that, so according to British people, conducting survey is helpful to their administration. So the British people, they were believed that a country had to be properly known before it could be effectively administered. So that's what, so they were conducted and then they were introduced since early 19th century to at the end of the 19th century. So they were started and they were practiced the different kinds of surveys. And according to British people, conducting surveys, it's become more important, which were going to help a lot to administer the state or country. I hope you all of you understood this concept. Now let us discuss about what official records do not tell. See, when we go through the official records, whether these official records which were maintained in the archives or in the libraries or in so and so things or so and so where, so whether those official records, so they are going to give all kinds of information, or what official records do not tell to us. So about this now we are going to discuss. See, dear students, from this vast corpus of records, we can get to know a lot of information. So if we go through these official records, so we are able to know a lot of information. Of course, there is no doubt. But we must remember that these official records are only official records, and they tell us what the officials thought. That's all. Are you getting now? Are you getting now? So there we can see a lot of official records. Okay. So these officials records, if you go through these official records, so we can get to know a lot of informations. But we must remember that these are official records. These are official records, and these official records will give only the informations and what the officials thought. That's all. What officials thought. That's all. Only officials. See, these official records, it's only about, so communicate with higher or lower in the government level, and this is about the only the officials thought, and also they were what officials they were interested in, and what they wished to preserve for posterity. That's all. See, these officials records do not always help us understand what other people in the country felt, whether they are going to focus on all these things. I mean, the official records, so it's only the official records. So these official records are not going to focus on the people of the country, what they were felt, and what lay behind their actions. What lay behind their actions. So the officials records do not give up these informations. It's about only the officials. It's the thoughts of officials. So the records were what the officials they were interested in, and what they wished to preserve for posterity. Preserve for posterity. And these records do not help to understand about the other people of the country, what they were felt, and what lay behind their actions. Are you getting now? See, for that we need to look elsewhere. The historians, if they are going to depend upon only these official records, so it is not enough. They should look elsewhere, somewhere. When begin to search for these other sources, we find them in plenty, though they are more difficult to get than official records. Because official records are easily available, but the other sources of information, so it's too difficult to get also, and even it's too difficult to categorize also, and even it's too difficult to understand also. See, dear students, we have diaries of people apart from these official records, accounts of pilgrims and travelers, and even the autobiographies of important personalities also, and popular booklets also that were sold in the local bazaars. And even as print culture spread, the newspapers also published, and issues were debated in public, and leaders and reformers wrote to spread their ideas. Poets and novelists wrote to express their feelings. So these are all, so the other documents are where we can get the lot of information. So apart from the official records. So even though they are more difficult to get than official records, so it is clear that. So apart from these official records, we have the different things. That's about diaries of people. So during the time, so the peoples they used to start, they were written their diaries, and even the accounts of pilgrims. So there were many scholars, those who were visited to our country, so they were written a lot of accounts. And also, there were so many travels. accounts of pilgrims and travelers. And dear students, so not only this, the accounts of pilgrims and travelers, and even so there we can see the autobiographies of important personalities. Autobiographies of important personalities. And also during this time, we all of you knows that so the popular booklets also which were sold in the local bazaars. Popular booklets. The popular booklets which were sold in the local bazaar or local markets. And also when during this time the printing press and the introduce of the print, it was spread the newspapers, because newspapers published so many things. Are you getting now? So during this time what happened? So the newspaper also spread and they are published issues and even the debated also, and leaders and reformers wrote to spread their ideas. Reformers and so many reformers and then so many leaders. So they were composed so many things which were included their ideas. And even the poets and novelists, they were wrote to express their feelings. See, all these sources, however, were produced by those who were literate. These are all produced by who were literate. See, from these we will not able to understand how history was experienced and lived by the tribals and the peasants. See, these official documents, these surveys, and these all the written documents, so it is all about so who were literate. And what about illiterates? See, from these we will not be able to understand how history was experienced. It's not enough to understand about the complete history and how the different peoples they were lived, such as the tribals and even the peasants and even the workers and even those who are working in mines and the poor class people in the different areas. See, getting to know their lives a more difficult task. We can get only the importance, rulers, administrations, government, and so on and so forth. But what about all these remaining people? So it is too difficult, dear students. It's too difficult. So to knows about especially the tribals, peasants, workers, poor class peoples, and even though those who are working in the mines and all, so getting know their lives, it's more difficult. It's more difficult task, especially for the historians. So at this can be done. ಹಾಗಂತೇಳಿ ಕೈಚಲ್ ಕುತ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋ ಹಾಗಿಲ್ಲ ಮಕ್ಕಳ. At this can be done if we make a little bit of effort. Through our effort, we should put a little bit more effort. When you read this book, you will see how this can be done. If you go through this textbook, then we can understand how can we. So with the effort we can. With the effort we can. So it is very much important. So how, when, and where. This is all completely the historians. So before the historians, so there is a lot of task while they were going to compose the history of India. So they have to refer all these things. Are you getting now? See, by putting a little bit more effort, so we can make it possible, or we can create the best one. By this, I would like to end this chapter. Have a nice day. Thank you so much.